This is the EQE 43, an all-electric AMG from Mercedes Benz. It's quick, it's got the looks, and it's got all of the tech. You don't want to miss this one. Let's get into it. Welcome to the very quiet review of the Mercedes Benz EQE 43. Now I feel like I can do this review almost like a David Attenborough, because I'm in nature, I'm quiet, and you'll be able to hear me whisper because of how quiet the car is inside. But if I put it into Sport Plus, it gets louder and it starts to feel like a proper car. Okay, now that I've got that out of the way, we can do a proper review and start talking normally again. So yes, this is the inside of the Mercedes Benz EQE 43 AMG. It's an all-electric Mercedes Benz, but it's powered by two electric motors, and together they put out 350 kilowatts and 858 Newton meters of torque. Now those two motors are split, so one's in the front axle and one's on the rear axle, so that means you've got four-wheel drive, which is Mercedes-Benz's famous 4MATIC system, which makes things a little bit easier because when you put your foot down, all four wheels are propelling you forward, which means you've got a lot more traction, you've got better control, and you're not just spinning up the wheels at the back because you're trying to, I don't know, make sense of over 800 Newton meters of torque. Okay, we're going to do a launch control, which means putting the car into Sport Plus. You'll hear the sounds and everything starts to change. And then we just wait for the robot to change. Whew. But pay attention to the sounds because that's specific to an EV. So here we go. Oh! Jeez. And when you do a launch control like that, you're literally using everything. So you all 850 torque. Damn. And trust me, my body can feel that I've used it all. That's a lot of fun. But like with any EV, the first thing I like to do is make sure that I'm driving with one pedal. So I'm going to put the regenerative mode or recuperation as strong as possible. And here on the EQE, you do that by simply tapping the paddle shifters. So in a standard ICE car or an internal combustion engine car, you would use the paddle shifters to change your gears, but because this is an electric vehicle, you don't have gears. So what they've done is they've kept the paddles, but now they've simply just given them a different function. And here you can adjust how strong or how normal you want the regen to be. So essentially, if it's going to be normal or no recoup, then it's going to feel like driving a normal car. But if you put it as strong as possible, then when you take your foot off of the accelerator like this, the car slows down and it'll come to a complete stop if you let it to, which is pretty cool. So yeah, driving with one foot in an EV is a must. It's such a cool feeling when you drive, and it's a little bit off-putting at first, but once you get used to it, it's really a cool way to drive a car. So let's get the design out of the way, because that's one of the most striking features of this EQE. It's a sharp pointed design. It looks like a wedge, but that's intentional because every bit of this car has been designed to be as aerodynamic as possible. So you've got this sleek, slippery outer shell that's just going to slide through the air. You've got door handles that tuck away when you start to drive, because if the door handles were out, it would create some form of resistance. And then you've also got the wheels. You've got these wheels that are also some form of aerodynamic design to them, which is going to help the air slide past them. And then you do have the spoiler at the back, which I don't know if it's more cosmetic than it is functional, but it still looks cool. But I've really come to like the design of the EQE. I do prefer it over the EQS design. I feel like the EQS is a little bit too long, and that wedge shape kind of carries on for longer than what it should. But in this form factor, I think that it complements that shape. And especially in this 43 AMG trim, you're getting a lot more sporty styling. The car's a little bit lower, you're getting bigger wheels, you're getting the AMG grille up front, which is quite cool because you've got the lines. And if you know Mercedes-Benz, if you've got those lines on your grille, then it's an AMG. And then you've also got these really high-tech headlamps up front, which are going to block out the high beam from any oncoming traffic. So you can literally see it blocking out the cars in front of you, like there's square shadows in the road, and as soon as they come past you, it covers them up and it lightens up those empty spots. It's so flippin' clever. I don't know, It's hard to explain what it looks like, but I'm going to try to put it on screen for you to see if you can kind of get an idea of what that is. And then coming around the rear, you've got these soft lines as they continue around the car for the aerodynamic part of things. And then the rear tail lights are also LED, and you've also got that light bar that kind of connects them down the middle too. And altogether, I think it's a really, really good looking car. And then the performance, as I've mentioned, it's got huge power. So you've got 350 kilowatts, 858 Newton meters. And when you put your foot down, yeah, you can feel all of it. I hope the camera didn't mess up too much there. But yeah, geez, this car, it definitely has kind of made the AMG-ness alive in it. And I was a little bit worried about that. But what they've tried to do is make it as EV as possible. I mean, this thing makes sound. It's like you're driving a computer game. Putting it into Sport Plus, it sort of emulates, and it's not even a car sound. It's more of like a spaceship, which is quite cool. And here, the ambient lighting, I've also got the setting on where it'll change the lights according to how you're driving. So if you're putting your foot down and you're using energy, the lights change color and it goes red the faster you go. And then when you take your foot off to recoup, the light changes again to tell you that you're regenerating energy. And thanks to the different drive modes, from comfort to sport, sport plus, individual, and everything like that, you're able to kind of tailor your driving experience. And if you do put it into the sport modes, you can feel how the car just sits. The handling is really great. You get a good feel of where the car is all of the time. And thanks to the rear wheel steering, your driving and dynamics is heightened that little bit more. And it also helps in tight turning spaces. So if you're in a parking lot and needing to do a 3-point turn, it does make life a lot easier. And Mercedes-Benz has now also become very famous for having these
Telephone not available. Connect your phone now.
And I can't say the brand name because it keeps activating the voice assistant. So these new MB vehicles have become very famous for being very high tech. So you've got these huge displays, they're very high resolution. You've got this big one in the center here where you can navigate through most of the car settings. You can also change the ambient lighting through the comfort. And you've also got a very specific AMG function too. So here you're able to see how the energy has been used in the car. Is the car using energy? Is it generating energy? You can also see the suspension, temperatures, voltages, G meters, as well as my favorite one here, which is the actual meter. So you can see how much torque you're generating, how many kilowatts you're using, and when you take your foot off, you can then see how much energy you're actually saving and putting back into the battery. You're also not needing to dig through many menus to get your climate control because they have separated it on the screen here. But if you are wanting a little bit more in-depth climate settings, you can then click the climate menu here and it opens up the full climate menu for you to choose from. But if you do need to access things quickly, they have made it very easy to. And there aren't a lot of buttons in here at all. A lot of it is sensors and swiping, especially on the steering wheel too. You've got to swipe for your volume, you've got to swipe to change things and anything like that. But there is some form of clicking functionality to it. I've come to become a lot used to how this operates, so I don't mind kind of working it now. But when you get into the car and you try it for the first time, it does take a lot of getting used to. And then looking at the interior, and I love it. I think it looks really cool. You've got this very big dash that kind of sweeps across the whole of the front of the car. It connects from the doors and goes all the way around. You've got some really cool red stitching. You've got the ambient lighting that runs the full length of it too. You've got this really cool like wood trim on the dash here too, which kind of just adds to the luxury part of this car. And you've got lots of really nice artificial interior. And I say artificial because with it being an EQ, it's got fake leather inside here, but the type of microfibers and fake leathers they've used still emulates a luxury premium vehicle. So you aren't feeling like you're being shortchanged by not having leather, but where there is real leather is on the steering wheel, because here's where you feel and hold the car the most. This is where you connect with the vehicle. So they have kept the steering wheel leather, and I do like that they've done that. I'm going to go back to comfort so that you can hear me talking nice and clear. Yeah, and then from a storage and convenience point of view, you've got quite a decently sized glove box or cubby hole there. The door bins are actually really big too, so you can fit big water bottles or anything you might need to. You've got a slot down here where you can also have 2 cup holders that slide away, which I think is quite cool. And you've got a wireless phone charger, which goes all the way underneath the dash. So your phone hides away, it charges. You're not being distracted by it, so it tucks away and it's gone. And then under the armrest here, which splits open, you've got lots and lots of space here. I mean, it goes on forever. I like that. I'm a space guy, I like it. And speaking of more space, you've got room underneath the center console here, and because the car doesn't have gears, because it's an EV, you can benefit from the extra room, and that's what they've done down here. So you've got this huge cavity. I store my bag, I store my laptop, anything like that you want out of the view of people, just store underneath there, and I think that's a very good use of the unused space in an EV. It looks good, but try not to feel it if you don't have to, because you're going to be a little bit disappointed. So if you listen here, that's just the corner of the dash where this aircon sits. And right underneath you, that's how wobbly the dash is. And again, I don't know why it's like that. No, there's not many other cars that are this wobbly at this price point and at over 2 million rand. I wouldn't be happy if I was buying this car and it did that. But I do need to commend them on the ride quality and how quiet it is in here. Now, as I've said to you, it is in comfort mode, so now the car is completely silent. You aren't hearing anything, and it's very, very quiet. It's well insulated. You can barely hear the road noise. The suspension and the air suspension that comes with it absorbs the bumps and imperfections really well. It's a very luxurious driving experience. You need to remember that this is technically an E-Class, so you are wanting that sort of experience when you're driving. It's just obviously the electric version. So I do need to take my hat off to them. I would if my hair wasn't messy underneath there. But yeah, well done Mercedes-Benz. This car drives well. It's super quiet. It gives off very premium car vibes, which it should. But if you don't touch those premium things, you'll never know that the build quality is a little sus. So overall, the interior looks really, really good. It's a very good looking car inside here. The premium materials used are also up there. There's a lot of space, and especially if you look in the rear. And remember, this emulates an E-Class. So there needs to be room in the back for your passengers, and there's heaps of room back there. What I do feel is missing, and maybe it's just something that wasn't spec'd for it, is the climate control for your passengers in the rear. And again, at over 2 million rand, you would expect them to have some sort of customization from an aircon point of view, which they don't have. There's no screen, there's barely any function for them in terms of even a fan speed, which they don't have. But what they do have is a little flap that when you open it, there is 2 USB Type-Cs. And if you flip down the center armrest, you've got 2 cup holders and a place for your iPad. But as usual, I always battle to open up the cup holder section. I don't know. Just me and Mercedes-Benz are never going to be friends in that aspect. And then if we take a look at the boot space, you'll be quite pleased to see that there's quite a lot there. The reason I say you'll be surprised is because this is a 4MATIC system, so it's 4-wheel drive. You've got a motor on the rear axle, which is going to eat into the load space in the boot. And taking all of that into consideration, I'm quite pleased with the space that's back there. There obviously isn't going to be a spare wheel because there's no space, but you do have a tire repair kit and all of that. And I mean, to try and squeeze a 21-inch wheel there is probably not going to be something very easy, so I get it. And then the EV, the electric vehicle aspect of things and what it's like to live with. And I've been quite pleased with the range that I've got. I have filled the car up from 20% all the way to full, and it took just about an hour. I charged it at Sandton City. It was about, I think, 50 to 60 kilowatts per hour that I was getting from it. So it filled this 90 kilowatt hour battery within that hour, and I got a range of around 400, I think. Mercedes-Benz claims around 500. I'm not sure if you'll be able to get that, but if you have the right settings and the people that have driven the car before you didn't drive the hell out of it, the computer might give you a lot more range based off of the previous driving styles. So it might be possible. I'm currently now at 63% with 250 kilometers of range. So I think for a car that's got this much power, that's this big, it weighs this much, I think that that's pretty good. But the power in this car is just so addictive. You just want to keep putting your foot flat every single time, because that feeling and that inertia of going forward is just so addictive. So let's go back into Sport Plus, get the sounds and everything again, and drive this. Woo! This electric AMG. Now, I was a bit hesitant to be on the side of saying an EV would be an AMG, but I think what they've given it here is, and maybe they should have called it EAMG or something, because as you know, AMG is still all about the characteristics of the car and the sound and the exhaust and the performance, and they've tried to emulate that as best as possible. So I can get behind that, and yes, this is the way that the world is going, but yeah, I like it a lot. Damn, all right, let's go back into comfort so that we don't get into trouble. But this is very cool. Now, if you're in the market for an EQE or any sort of electric vehicle, then please go check one out on changecars.co.za. They're a website that sells new and used cars, but the main difference there is that you aren't going to get taken for a ride, okay? They vet every single dealership that sells cars on their website. They're also approved by all the automotive manufacturers as well as Discovery Insure. So if that's not a flex for quality, then I don't know what is. So go check them out. I know you're not going to be disappointed in whatever car you get from them, and you're going to get the highest quality of service too. And they're also a proud partner of Greg Dennis Reviews. And now if you want to see if you can afford a Mercedes Benz EQE 43 AMG, I'm going to put the monthly cost of ownership up on the screen next. And let me know in the comments what you think. Okay, and now for the verdict in the form of the GDR test. Should you get it? Should you drive it? Or should you remove it from the cars that you're looking at? Now for me, I would say go and drive it. Go and see if you want to own a Mercedes Benz EQE 43. For me, it's just a little bit too expensive. If you have a look at the inside, the interior quality is just not up there with what you would pay 2.2 odd million rand for. And from a power point of view, I would go look at like the Volvo C40. It's got 300 kilowatts, 660 torque, and because it's a little bit lighter than what this is, the performance is almost on par, in my opinion. It accelerates well, it's got all the torque you need and the range. So thanks for watching another Greg Dennis review. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you learned a little bit more about the Mercedes-Benz EQE 43. And if you did, please will you drop a like below, and if you want to see more videos like this and other car related content, then subscribe. But for now, I've got a few more launch controls that I need to do. Cheers.